For this video, I have $100 to spend. Join me as I go wine shopping in search of the four most interesting artisanal wines that offer great value for the money. The wines must also have reasonably good availability in a number of markets around the world. The back part of this video will include a tasting of each. First, I spent a few hours on the laptop to narrow down the range of options. I focused on classic established wine regions as they typically have better availability across multiple markets. I then worked the list down to individual wine producers. At this point, it was time to head out the door to the wine store. The wines in today's video can be found with many retailers in the US, along with other markets around the world. I went to Total Wine for the simple reason there are over 260 stores across the US, along with one that's about 10 minutes from where I live. The bottom line is I'm trying to show wines you have a good chance to find. And unless you're really into it, wine shopping is not easy. There are many regions and wine producers, winemaking methods, grape varieties, and it all gets reshuffled with each new vintage. It's a lot to sort through, and sometimes it might feel a little bit like taking a leap of faith when it comes to making a purchase. Hopefully, this is where I can add some value. Maybe I'm too predictable, but I am staying with the tried and true, well established classic wines that I've tasted many times over the years. Working it down to four wines was not easy. At one point, I had nearly 20 bottles in my cart. I could be happy with any four, but I worked it down to one white and three reds. The wines are from three different countries, price range of $16 to $33. I'm feeling good about my selections. The cost came in at $97.36. That includes a small discount. It's time to head home to taste some wine. First up is the 2021 Clos de Lune Lune d'Argent for $23.99. Well, this wine is a basic, generic Bordeaux appellation level wine. Don't let that fool you. There is nothing basic about this. It's cutting edge, yet classic at the same time. The vineyards are in the Sauterne region, a place known for sweet wine. Since the wine is made in a dry style, it's only entitled to use the base level appellation designation. It's made from 70% Semillon, 30% Sauvignon Blanc. It's produced under the direction of the team from Domaine de Chevalier in Pessac-Léognan, some of the very best dry white Bordeaux's that I've ever tasted. The color is a pale yellow green. It looks very fresh, bright, and youthful. So we're starting out with something that is super exciting and not all that common. I was excited when I saw this. Now, Semillon made into a dry style, it's not all that common around the world. You will see it in Australia, a few other places around the world, you'll see it from time to time. But typically within Bordeaux, if a wine is predominantly Semillon from Bordeaux, typically it's going to be a sweeter style. So seeing a Semillon dominant dry white Bordeaux, I think is really exciting. Now, the history on this wine, it has a connection to Domaine de Chevalier, which is kudos. That is just tremendous. Classic origins. And I've tasted this wine in previous vintages and absolutely loved it. So let's see what's going on in the glass. Okay, the aroma, a little bit of a floral characteristic. It reminds me of acacia, a bit of an orange blossom characteristic. There's some mango note here, a little citrusy character, and there is some oak, but the oak is very underlying. It's not an overt style of oak. On the palate, oh yeah, this is really nice. Plenty of weight. It's not heavy, but there's plenty of weight. Good presence on the palate. The acidity is just a moderate level. And again, this wine being 30% Sauvignon Blanc, the Sauvignon Blanc does give it a bit of that acidic backbone that's necessary, but it's more of a refined, softer style. Excellent length on the back palate, wonderfully balanced. I can see why this wine ages so well. I mean, everything is just proportioned as it should be. I mean, just beautifully made. Now, with the vintages that are available today, my preference is the 21 vintage. And I've tasted through a number of Bordeaux's from the 2021 vintage. For the reds, it's kind of a so-so vintage. But for the whites, it is a tremendous year. And I would take the 21 over the 20 vintage for white Bordeaux. Also, in terms of serving, do not get this wine too cold. I had this in the fridge for just over an hour. It's around 10 degrees Celsius, around 50 Fahrenheit. That's where you want to be. Any colder and you'll really tap down the aroma. But an absolutely beautiful wine. It's really classic in terms of what it shows, and I just love it. Next up is the 2020 Emilio Moro Ribera del Duero from Spain. Goes for $26.99. This is their flagship wine, the one that sees the broadest distribution. I first tried this wine back about 25 years ago when I had my wine shop. For me, this is Ribera del Duero at a very high level. Many of the vineyards are older, the yields are low, the winemaking is meticulous. I hesitate to say this, but the price actually seems too cheap for what it delivers. The color is a medium deep red with some fade at the edge of the glass, which is very typical for Tempranillo. So over the years, I have had this wine more times than I can count. It's one of those go-to wines that I've had time and time again, and it never disappoints. It's on my short list of all-time favorite wineries within Spain, and certainly on that short list for Ribera del Duero. They make a whole range of wines from Ribera. And this is the one that is most commonly available. So no matter where you're at in the world, you should have a decent chance of finding this wine. Now, this is made entirely from Tempranillo, and that is not the case for many Ribera del Duero. My preference is this style. If Cabernet Sauvignon is used, for instance, the Cabernet can dominate the Tempranillo, and I think it just changes the entire structure and style of the wine. So for me, this is the purest, most true sense of Ribera del Duero. Now, the oak on this is a combination of French and American. Typically, not always, but typically in Ribera, you'll find more French oak used versus Rioja, for instance. Now, in terms of the aroma, yeah, wonderful purity. It's that red fruit character, a little savory spice note to it. You definitely do get the oak. It's there, but it's seamlessly integrated into the wine. Really nice presence, very layered, just a lot going on in the wine glass. On the palate, plenty of weight here. It's not heavy, it's not clumsy in any way. Very well balanced, moderate acidity. The wine is rather soft, but yet you do get some tannins on the back palate. A little bit of a drying characteristic there. This is a wine that has very good aging potential. Typically, I would say you can go about 6, 8 years, 10 years out in the very best vintages, and the wine will definitely improve with time. The structure is there, the balance is all there. The value for the money on this is just outstanding. And if you're a fan of Ribera del Duero, this is something you absolutely have to try. It's a winner. If you've not yet subscribed to my channel, please consider doing it right now. Hit that like button and definitely hit the notification bell. That way you'll be kept up to speed on all things happening here. All these things help to grow my channel. It's very much appreciated. Thanks so much. Next is the 2022 Domaine Brusset Tradition Le Grand Montmirail Gigondas. This is the splurge in today's video at $32.99. The Domaine owns vineyards throughout the southern Rhone, including Restaud and Queyron. Both are excellent, but the Gigondas is the standout. The color is a medium deep red. There's some fade at the edge of the glass. This is very typical of Grenache-based wines. If you're not drinking the wines from the Southern Rhone, you are definitely missing out. These are some of the very best values in the world. That's been true for decades. For me, I drink more wine from the Southern Rhone than anywhere else in the world. One of the standouts has long been Gigondas. It received its own appellation back in the early 1970s, even though it applied back in the 1920s. The wheels of government turned slow, but they did get it right. Now, the wines from this part of the world are primarily made from Grenache. That's true with this particular wine. And even though I don't have a tech sheet on this wine, I believe the Grenache is actually coming out of concrete vats. Now, that's an old technology that has made a strong comeback in recent years. The wine also has a bit of Syrah and Mourvedre. So the Grenache is what forms the basis of the wine. The Syrah provides a little bit of that spiciness, a little more depth and weight. With the Mourvedre, it's really there to provide a little acidity to give the wine some lift on the palate. It also lifts the aromatics as well. Now, in terms of the aroma, oh yeah, smells sensational. And there's a characteristic that is quite unique to wines in the Southern Rhone and a few other places in the south of France. And it's sometimes called guérique. And it's a characteristic of all the different types of herbs that grow in that part of the world: basil, thyme, rosemary, lavender. You can find those characteristics in this wine. It smells incredible. There's this black fruit characteristic to it, very ripe, very plump on the palate. Also a little cracked pepper note. But I mean, this is stellar in terms of the way it smells. Yeah, on the palate, big, hearty, very full, wonderfully proportioned. You can tell this wine doesn't have a whole lot of age to it, being a 22 vintage, but it's actually quite accessible at the present time. Certainly will benefit from some aeration. And in terms of cellaring, 6 to 8 years on a wine like this, no problem whatsoever. Now, in recent years, the quality of Gigondas has really upped its game. And in my opinion, in many cases, it can rival or even surpass those from nearby Châteauneuf-du-Pape, which oftentimes cost much more money. This is a wonderful wine. And if you have access to it, definitely pick this up. It's really a gem. Next is the 2019 Quinta de Carvalhas Douro Tinto from Portugal. This is the least expensive wine in today's video at $16.99. This producer has a long history of port production, but as is common with many in the Douro, it now produces a wonderful range of dry reds. Touriga Nacional takes the lead role, supported by Touriga Franca and Tinta Reyes. Touriga Nacional-based wines tend to be very deep in color. This one is nearly opaque at the core. So this particular wine I was really excited about because the value for the money on it consistently is tremendous. Now, I don't think there's another European wine region that's redefined itself more so than Douro. The reputation there is based on port, but increasingly in recent years, it's more been about dry red wines. And now some of these are absolute world class. Touriga Nacional plays front and center role. You do find this grape variety in a few other places around the world, but not too much. There are some experiments going on in Bordeaux right now. But the grape brings a lot of color, a lot of density, and it's one of the things that really lends that unique character to the wines from Douro and neighboring Dow. Yeah, and the aroma, I mean, what's not to like here? You get that dark chocolate, roasted coffee, dark fruit characteristic. There's a little bit of a spice note there. Oak is obvious, but it's not overbearing. It's more of an understated style of oak, but really wonderful aromatics. Oh yeah, this is a big boy. It's a hefty, robust style red. Lots of extract here, very weighty on the palate. You do get that black fruit, a little of that spice component. Very interesting on the palate. There's just a lot of volume here, and you definitely do get some tannins on the back palate. They're not aggressive, but they're certainly there. Leads me to believe that this wine probably would benefit from some aeration. Certainly has some aging potential as well. But in terms of what this delivers in the glass, there's a lot here. The wine has a tremendous amount of character. This is so typical of wines from Douro, and this particular producer has just been so consistent from year to year. For under $20, you're going to be hard pressed to get a better glass of red. Definitely take a look at this. Thank you for joining me on my wine shopping adventure. For $100, I'm feeling pretty good about it. If you have any questions or comments, please post it down below. I do my best to follow up on each and every one. And if you're interested in additional wine shopping videos, look on the end screen. There's a couple of links here that might be of interest. As for me, I know I'll be drinking something interesting tonight. I hope you are as well. And please stop back again before too long. Cheers.